Hiya team. So today I wanted to talk a little bit to you about one of the things that I hear a lot in grappling circles and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu especially, which is the idea that skill is enough, that technique will conquer all. And to be honest with you, there's a lot right about that statement, but there's quite a lot wrong about it as well. Initially, Jiu-Jitsu was designed as a self-defense art. It was supposed to keep you safe, against guys in the street, etc. And a trained individual, 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, will beat an untrained individual. You know that, guys. If you get new guys turn up to your class that are around the same attribute level as you, and you already can grapple, you know that you can smash those guys. But over time, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has become a sport in its own right, and now what we're seeing is an athlete versus an athlete. And that is where things change, guys. Having skill sometimes is not enough. And you may find this anecdotally in class, guys, that if you're, say, a blue belt level and you weigh 70k and there's another blue belt in the class that's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger than you, a little bit more athletic than you, you may find that sometimes they get the better of you. I know I've been in that spot loads early in my career where there were guys that, I felt like I was maybe even better than, but their attributes were so good that they could just throw me around the mat. So the first thing I'd like to say about that is that skill and technique is still the most important attribute. And that should go without saying, guys. The higher skill level you can get, the more depth you are applying technique under pressure, you're going to be a better martial artist and a better fighter. However, when skill is equally matched, more often than not, the bigger, stronger, more powerful athlete will win. And this should just be like a common sense thing, guys. The fact that our sport has weight divisions to allow for this is just kind of illustrates that point. So a simple thought experiment, which will take you 1 or 2 seconds to think about, is would you rather be stronger or weaker? It's normally going to be a pretty smart answer to say, I would rather be stronger. All things considered, I'd rather be a better, bigger athlete than I would be a smaller, weaker athlete. So there's kind of misconceptions that like, oh, well, if you're too strong, it stops you learning technique, or if you're big, you just rely on your size. That doesn't have to be the case. There's no reason why you can't be strong, powerful, fast, athletic, but still spend time learning technique. And I'd argue in my experience of training a lot of guys that those guys tend to pick up technique quicker a lot of the time because they can go out and start applying it straight away. They're not held back by any of their physicality. If they've learned a throw or a takedown or submission, they can often go out and start applying it that day in class. And that's only going to add their confidence and allow them to keep improving on that skill. So I wouldn't allow people to make you feel like doing strength and conditioning somehow takes away from your technique or makes you, bad or not as good as the guys that are really focusing purely on technique. If anything, it should allow you to think that you're doing everything you can to enhance your game and enhance your skill. So if we think about any high-level sport, if we think about sprinters, we think about people that are competing in the Olympics, any sport, they're all going to be following some type of strength and conditioning routine to back up their chosen sport. So one of the things I think is going to be important moving forward for you guys is to think about it in simple terms. You're going to have skill training and you're going to have strength training. The idea of the strength training is to enhance and build on the skill training, not to take away from it. What we shouldn't be trying to do is just use pure strength, power, cranks, etc. to apply things that should be done in a finesse way. But what we should be doing is using our physical attributes to enhance our technique and our skill on the mats. The way that this can take form, guys, is that we concentrate on our technique, we concentrate on our skill building with our training partners, and then we think about what we're doing in terms of some of the movements that we might be learning. So let's take, for example, something like a guillotine choke, where we are using a lot of leverage and a lot of choking mechanics to finish that. But there is going to be a degree of forearm bicep strength involved. There's going to be a degree of leg strength involved. And there's also going to be a degree of endurance involved to be able to keep constant tension in that submission against a resisting partner. So the way that I might approach that is when I go to the gym, if I was struggling to finish that technique or I wanted to enhance that technique, I would look at the muscles or the movements associated with that submission and I would try to replicate it in the gym. Now this doesn't mean I need to start guillotining pieces of gym equipment. I would avoid doing that at all costs. But what I would say is that if I required more endurance or more strength in my bicep or my forearm, I may add in some supplementary bicep and forearm training whilst I was trying to master that technique. You can apply that logic to anything, guys. sweeps, takedowns, etc. If you can start to look at what you're trying to achieve with that movement, what muscles, what movements are involved, and like I say, you're not replicating it like for like in the gym. I would leave that definitely to your skills training with a partner. But what can you do in the gym to enhance it? So guys, don't be afraid that strength training is going to take away from your technique. It absolutely won't. If anything, it's only going to enhance it and make it better.